Acharya Ashtottarashata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravindha Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivrajaka Acharya Varya Ashtottarashata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Granthāraj Shri Shri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Ki The Nectar of Devotion Evening Seminar Ki Yuga Dharma Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Bol Hari Hari Bol Hari Hari Bol Om Ajnanatirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Tadamasyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajeevam Satvaitam Savadhutam Parijanataritam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Rasani Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. At the very onset of present today's discourse, I would like to initially offer my most respectfully translated obeisances unto the lotus feet of their divine conjugal lordships, Shri Shri Radha and Lankaneshwar, along with their eternal transcendental companions and associates such as Shri Lalita Devi, Shri Vishakha Devi, Shri Rupa Rati Manjari, etc. And along with them, I would also like to submit my most respectfully translated submissive homages unto the lotus feet of their divine lordships, Shri Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Shri Shri Nityananda Prabhu, along with their perpetual divine entourage consisting of Shri Rupa Goswami, Shri Sanatana Goswami, and all the Goswamis of Sri Dham Vrindavan. Finally, I would also like to pay my obeisances and due honorary respects unto the lotus feet of His Divine Grace, Abhaya Charana Ravindra Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who has been a supramundane adept in the art of dispersing the science of Krishna consciousness, who has thus dispersed and distributed the transcendental loving devotional service of Lord Shri Krishna throughout this world in this present modern era in most unique and fantastic and unprecedented way. And also, I would like to pay my obeisances and due honorary respects unto the initiating spiritual master, along with all the preceptorial spiritual masters, as well as all the senior Vaishnava devotees of the Lord present herein. And thereafter, now let us commence the context of our current day's discussion, especially the context in regards to the deliberation on the profound aspects of the nectar of devotion, alias Sri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, compiled by Srila Rupa Goswami. So, as we discussed in our yesterday's evening session, how Srila Rupa Goswami, upon getting inspiration from Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from within his heart, he composed this unprecedented treatise known as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And in the invocatory verse, in the very invocatory verse of this treatise, Rupa Goswami prays unto Lord Shri Krishna by saying, Akhila Rasamrita Murtihi Prasrimara Ruchi Ruddhataraka Palihi Kalitashyama Lalito Radha Priyan Vidurjayati. Let there be all victory and all glory to that omnipotent absolute truth and the personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna Chandra, who is endowed with all excellence and who is the very personification and embodiment of the transcendental paramount bliss characterized by the 12 forms of divine juicy mellows or rasas. So, while discussing, and then it has been again said that Shri Krishna Chandra, so here in the verse, we were discussing the word Vibhu yesterday. Shri Krishna Chandra has been compared to, is actually not compared, but is actually considered to be the very personification of the transcendental moon. The transcendental moon existing in the transcendental realm of Gokul or Golok Vrindavan. That transcendental moon is none other than Shri Krishna. And as we discussed yesterday, the word Vibhu has two different types of meanings. The first meaning is taken in the context of apparent definition. And in the context of apparent definition, the meaning comes out to be the moon, and so therefore Lord Krishna has been considered to be a transcendental moon here. And as we understood yesterday, how within Shri Krishna's transcendental body there are 24.5 moons situated, and those 24.5 moons combined together also form one full moon. Because as it is the scriptural conclusion propounded by Ishavasya Upanishad, found within the Krishna Yajurveda Samhita, Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om. It has been described in this Ishavasya Upanishad, that that Supreme Personality of Godhead, Absolute Truth, is a complete whole. And all the emanations, all the various forms of manifestations which rather emanate or sprout from that original Samabharam Shri Krishna, they also are considered to be complete wholes. So, as we learned that the 24 and a half moves, when they comprise together in their aggregate form, when they get accumulated together in a combined fashion, then also the sum total comes out to be one complete total move. So, as it is the principle of transcendence, numeric 1 added, annexed with another numeric 1 also equals to the total sum of numeric 1. And the numeric 1 subtracted or made minus from the numeric 1 also becomes, also turns into the result of numeric 1. As a resultant of that process, also numeric 1 is found in the conclusion. So, because that is the way how the transcendental world works, therefore we understood how the 24 and a half moves which are found within the various different bodily parts of Shri Krishna, when they are combined together, they also come out as a result to be one aggregate full moon. And that one aggregate full moon, that means the whole transcendental body of Shri Krishna, not just the 10 foot nails or the 10 hand nails or the 4.5 moons found within the transcendental lotus face of Shri Krishna, but the whole transcendental body of Shri Krishna is considered to be a full moon here. And the second meaning that was taken of the word Vibhu was rather taken according to the analytical context in which the different constituents of a word, of a particular word are analyzed, and then the definition of various constituents is annexed together, and then the aggregate definition is derived thereupon. So, as we learned that the word Vidu has two different types of meanings, analytically speaking. Two different types of meanings. And as Srila Jiva Goswami explains in his Dovan Sanatana commentary on this very first invocatory verse, that Shri Krishna Chandra, Yaha Bhaktanam Sarvani Pavani Anarthani Cha Vibhunoti Saha Shri Krishna Viduhu Atra Uchyate. That Shri Krishna Chandra, who completely eradicates and destroys all the sinful activities, all the misdeeds and vicious actions of its devotees, and who also completely uproots all types of unwanted obstructive items or impediments found on the path of devotional service. That Shri Krishna, who uproots all types of anarthas, is known as Vibhu. And as we discussed yesterday, there are 4 types of anarthas, and within each type of anartha, the first type of anartha is known as Dhram, the second type of anartha is known as Aprad, the third type of anartha is known as Asat Krishna, or the desire or hankering after all mundane pursuits, and the fourth type of anartha is known as Hridaya Daurbalya, or the weakness of the heart. And then within each category is again divided fourfold. Like there are 4 types of apradas: Dham Aprad, Seva Aprad, Nam Aprad, Vaishnava Aprad. Then there are 4 types of Hridaya Daurbalyas. Then there are 4 types of Asat Krishnas, and then there are 4 types of Dhrams or illusions. So, because Shri Krishna uproots these 4 types of anarthas or the unwanted items, that's why he is known as Vibhu. Vibhunoti anarthani yaha saha Shri Krishna. So here, the word Vibhu is rather taken as a Kritant noun. According to Sanskrit grammar, there are 2 types of nouns. Nouns, what we mean by nouns is proper names or nomenclatures. So there are 2 types of nouns according to Sanskrit grammar. And the first type of noun is rather known as Pratipadik. And the second type of noun is known as Kridanta, based on the Harinamamrita Vyakaran, the Harinamamrita grammar of Srila Jiva Goswami. There are 2 types of nouns. So the Pratipadik noun is that noun which is noun from the very beginning. Pratipadik noun is noun from very beginning. It is not a reformed noun. It is not a reformed noun. It is not a resultant noun. It is noun from the very beginning, so to speak. And the Kridanta noun is a resultant noun of some verb or verbal root. Verbal root is known as dhatu and verb is known as kriya. And words usually denote some particular type of action. Words do not denote a particular figure or a particular object or entity. No. Particular object or entity, whether animate or inanimate, whether cognitive or incognitive, whether sentient or insentient, whether spirit or matter, whether movable or immovable, all types of objects, whether spiritual or mundane, all types of objects or entities or figures having some type of form, name, qualities, etc. are denoted by nouns. Whereas, on the other hand, the actions are denoted by the verbs and the verbal roots. There is a difference between nouns and verbal words. Words denote particular activity or action, and the nouns denote some particular object, physical object. So, here the word vidhu is actually a noun. But this noun is not noun from the very beginning. It is rather manufactured noun. It is rather a manufactured resultant noun. It is a reformation of some particular verb and verbal root. What type of particular verb is reformed into the noun vidhu? Vidhu is a noun here. And here vidhu means the person who eradicates or who destroys, anarthas. Here the word vidhu means that transcendental personality who eradicates anarthas from the heart of his devotees, from the heart of his sincere devotees. So that is what we mean by the word vidhu. Vidhu is a noun here. Vidhu is a noun indicating Shri Krishna who is eradicating anarthas from the heart of his devotees, as substantiated by Bhagavatam verse Srimvatam Pratham Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Vidhi Antahasto Javatrani Vidunoti Suhrit Satam Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Vaishniki. All the anarthas are destroyed by the grace of the Lord, by the Lord himself and his desire. So, the noun vidhu means somebody who destroys, or that Shri Krishna who destroys the anarthas. But that noun is rather derived from the verb vidhunoti. That noun is rather derived from the word vidhunoti. From the word vidhunoti, the word vidhunoti means destruction or cleansing of contamination, cleansing of anarthas. That is the literal meaning of the word vidhunoti. So destruction or cleansing of contamination, that is the word, that is an action, that is not a noun. But from the word vidhunoti, which is a verb, the noun vidhu has been made, and that is why it is known as kridanta noun and not the pratipadik noun. It's a reformed resultant noun of a particular verb. And the second meaning of the word vidhu is taken by Sri Jiva Goswami to mean that Shri Krishna who bestows and grants all sorts of transcendental auspiciousness unto his devotees. And he has used another word. Now, the second meaning of the word vidhu, that second meaning of the word vidhu is also based on some particular type of verb. It is also not an original noun. If the second meaning of the word vidhu is taken, that second meaning is also not considered to be original noun, it is also a resultant noun then. Jiva Goswami explains the analytical growth of this word vidhu, and the analytical growth is known as Vyutpatti. So Jiva Goswami says that Yah Shri Krishna Sarvani Shubhani Bhaktanam Upari Vidadhati Sah Viduhu Uchyate. That Shri Krishna who bestows and grants all types of transcendental auspiciousness unto his devotees, that Shri Krishna is known as Vidhu here. Vidadhati. There, in the another meaning, in the past meaning, in the former meaning, it was vidhunoti word. Here, in the second meaning given, it is vidadhati word. And vidadhati means to grant or to bestow. So the word vidhu can also be considered manufactured from the word vidadhati. It can also be considered manufactured from the word Vibhunoti. It can also be considered manufactured from the word Vidadhati, and it can also be considered to be original noun, and if it is taken as original noun, then it means a boon. And that the two former meanings we have already explained. The third meaning we are explaining, that Shri Krishna who grants all auspiciousness. What sort of auspiciousness? So that has been described by Srila Jiva Goswami in the very invocatory verse of his foremost theoretical treatise known as Shri Tattva Sandarbha. In Shri Tattva Sandarbha, which is the first among all the 6 Sandarbhas, in the very beginning of Tattva Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami prays unto Lord Shri Krishna in the same format by saying that Yasya Brahmeti Sanyam Kvachapi Nigameyati Chinmatra Satta Vyamsho Yasyam Shataihai Swai Vibhavati Vashajanneva Mayam Pumamsha Ekam Yasyaiva Rupam Vilasati Paramavyomi Narayanakyam Sa Shri Krishna Vidhattam Swayamiha Bhagavan Prema Tatpada Bhajam. Sa Shri Krishna Vidhattam. That means the same as Vidadhati. Vidadhati, the same verbal root which is used to make word Vidadhati, the same verbal root is also used to make the word Vidattam. Words are made from verbal roots. Words are made from verbal roots. But verbal roots cannot be used in the conversational language. That's why the verbal roots have to be amended. They have to be changed and they have to be transformed into words which can be used in statements. Like verbal root in English, as for instance, is to do. To do is a verbal root. But the phrase to do cannot be used. That's why to do has to be changed in order so that it can be used in a sentence. So, the verbal root of the word Vidadhati is the same as the verbal root of the word Vidhattam. Both Vidhattam and Vidadhati are kriyas, are words made up from the same verbal root, originating from the same verbal root. So Jiva Goswami puts Vidhattam, which is the same as Vidadhati. Yah Shri Krishna Sarvani Shubhani Tasya Bhaktanam Upari Vidadhati Saha Viduhu Shri Krishna. That Vidu means that Shri Krishna who grants all auspiciousness. And what type of auspiciousness? Jiva Goswami describes in the evocatory verse of Tattva Sandarbha that Shri Krishna actually grants, Sa Shri Krishna Vidattam, that Shri Krishna actually grants unto his devotees who are like the honeybees, always aspiring after to taste the transcendental nectarian honey emanating from the lotus-like face of Lord Shri Krishna and from the lotus-like feet of Lord Shri Krishna. Those pure devotees of the Lord who are incessantly serving the Lord, just like honeybees, they are trying to suck out the nectarian honey from the different flowers and from the different flower petals and from the different fragrant portions of a flower. In the same way, the devotees of the Lord, they are also serving the Lord just in order to taste the Krishna Madhurya, the sweetness found within the transcendental personality of Shri Krishna in the form of transcendental nectarian honey. So, Sa Shri Krishna Vidattam Swayamiha Bhagavan Prema Tatpada Bhajam. That Shri Krishna, that Lord Shri Krishna, who is of what type? Yasya Brahmeti Sanyam. The very first line of the verse. Jiva Goswami says, Yasya Brahmeti Sanyam Vachidapi Nigame Yadi Chinmatra Satta. The eternal cognitive existence of whose is sometimes, in some portions of the Vedas, becomes known as the impersonal Brahman effulgence. Yasya Brahmeti Sanyam Kvachidapi Nigame Yati Chinmatra Satta. The cognitive, spiritual cognitive existence of whose is sometimes known in the Vedas, is sometimes referred to in the Vedas or as the impersonal Brahman aspect. And Pyamsho yasyam shakaihi svaidhi bhavati vashayanneva mayam pumanscha. The localized aspect, the localized portion of whose is sometimes known as the indwelling super soul, found in three different phases. First as Karanadakshayi Mahavishnu, second as Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and third as Kshirodakshai Vishnu. All these three Purushavataras, all these three types of Purusha incarnations are acting in relationship with the material world. That's the difference, what makes Paramatma different from Bhagavan. Now what is the essential difference which distinguishes the Nirvishesha Brahma aspect from the Paramatma aspect? The essential difference which distinguishes or which makes distinct or which segregates the Paramatma aspect from the Nirvishesha Brahma aspect is that the Nirvishesha Brahma, the impersonal Brahman, is completely devoid of all sorts of shape, forms, countenance, complexion, nature, activity, attributes, names, etc. All sorts of variegatedness. The impersonal Brahman aspect is completely devoid of all sorts of variegatedness, also all sorts of personal varieties. Whereas the Paramatma feature of the Absolute Truth is rather endowed with varieties, but partially only, not in totality. That's why Srila Jiva Goswami explains by quoting various scriptures in his Paramatma Sandarbha, which is one of the 6 Sandarbhas, that the Paramatma aspect has a name, has a form, but he is devoid of, he has name, form and attributes also, but he is devoid of pastimes and associates and dham, these 3 things. The super soul aspect doesn't have dham or the realm in which he inhabits, and the Rama Vaikuntha and the Kshirodaka Sagar. The Kshirodaka Sagar, the milk ocean, which is sometimes known as Rama Vaikuntha, which is next to Lord Indra's heavenly paradise, wherein Kshirodakshai Vishnu resides, inhabits, and the Karan Samudra, the causal ocean, wherein Karanadakshai Mahavishnu resides, and the Garbhodaka Sagar, wherein the Garbhodakshai Vishnu resides. These 3 dhamas are not to be considered dhamas in utmost sense, because according to the real definition of the word dham, dham doesn't mean only where the Lord rests. Dham means where the Lord rests along with his transcendental associates and devotees and all paraphernalia and all entourage. But whereas in those places where Kshirodakshai Vishnu, Garbhodakshai Vishnu and Karanadakshai Vishnu reside, they reside lonely, without all other associates serving them. That's why the Narayan found within the Mahavaikuntha. Mahavaikuntha is on the other side of the causal ocean Virja. On one side of the causal ocean are found the material planets, material universes forming the material world. Causal ocean itself is known as marginal world. And on the other side of the causal ocean is found a variety of spiritual planets forming the spiritual world. So, the causal ocean, on the other side of the causal ocean is situated Mahavaikuntha. This Mahavaikuntha is different from the Rama Vaikuntha about which we have just mentioned few moments ago. Because Rama Vaikuntha is next to Lord Indra's heavenly planet, known as Amravati Puri. Where Indra resides, that heavenly planet is known as Amravati Puri. And next to Amravati Puri, there is Rama Vaikuntha. That Rama Vaikuntha is the same as the Milky Ocean, Kshirosagar, wherein Kshirodakshai Vishnu resides. And underneath the Patal Lotus is the Garbhodak Sagar, wherein Garbhodakshai Vishnu resides. That is still within this material universe. Both Rama Vaikuntha and Garbhodak Sagar. Whereas the Karan Samudra or the causal ocean, also known as Virja, is still considered to be marginal world and not full spiritual world. That is why the Mahavaikuntha, which is on the other side of the causal ocean, forming the spiritual world, that Mahavaikuntha, Lord Narayana resides in that Mahavaikuntha, and Lord Narayana is a distinguished category from all the 3 Purusha incarnations. Kshirodakshai Vishnu, Karanadakshai and Garbhodakshai, they are known as Paramatma. They are forming the Paramatma category of the Absolute Truth, whereas the Narayan of Mahavaikuntha, found in the spiritual world, is forming the Bhagavan category of the Absolute Truth. The Absolute Truth is divided into three phases, three categories: Brahma, Paramatma and Bhagavan. Vadanti tat tattvam yat tattvam yat jnanamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shapyate. So, the Brahman, the impersonal Brahma aspect is devoid of all sorts of personal variegatedness, whereas the Paramatma aspect is endowed with name, form, attributes, but is devoid of pastimes, abode, and associates. Because the associates are not present in Garbhodak Sagar, in Kshiv Sagar, and also in Karana Samudra. The associates like Sanat, Sanandan, Sunand, Vishwaksen, Jai, Vijay, and Lakshmi Devi, they are present only in the Mahavaikuntha of the proper spiritual world, on the other side of the causal ocean, on the other side of the marginal. That's why it has been described, Golok Namni Nijadhamni Tare Sapatya Devi Mahesha Haridhama Suteshu Teshu Tete Prabhava Nishaya Vihitascha Jena Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. The subsequent juxtapositional locations of all these transcendental planets has been very vividly described and has been depicted in Brahma Samhita by Lord Brahma. So, Dhama is considered not only the resting place of the Lord, Dhama can only be considered Dhama where the Lord rests or inhabits with his transcendental associates. But because in those places where Paramatma resides, or the three forms of Paramatma, Kshirodakshai, Garbhodakshai and Karanodakshai, where they reside, those planets, although they are transcendental spiritual planets, not subject to the mundane destruction, the mundane creation and the mundane sustenance. These planets like Rama, Vaikuntha, Garbhodak Sagar and Kshiv Sagar, and Karana Samudra, these planets are spiritual, but even though they are spiritual, they cannot be considered to be having acquired the status of Dham. Because Dham, the literal meaning of the Dham is the resting place where the Lord resides with his associates, not where the Lord resides alone as a loner. So, Paramatma also has a resting place. Those resting places of Paramatma are not to be considered Dham. Then one can also argue that how can you say that the Paramatma is devoid of the pastimes? How can you say that the Paramatma picture is only endowed with the names, forms and qualities and it is devoid of pastimes? Actually, in the strictest sense, Paramatma is even devoid of qualities, only endowed with name and form. So how can you say that the Paramatma is devoid of pastimes? Oh, Paramatma is performing activities, is performing function of sustaining this material world. It is the assigned function of Lord Vishnu to sustain this material world. It is the assigned function of Kshirodakshai Vishnu to maintain and sustain this material world in many different ways by using the mundane mode of goodness. By using the mundane mode of goodness as an instrumental, Kshirodakshai Vishnu sustains this material world in manifold aspects. And it is Kshirodakshai Vishnu who actually performs the task of destroying the miscreants or the demonic personages. He is the one who establishes, who re-establishes the principle of religion, and he is the one who makes the irreligious activities again go on decline. Yata yata hi dharmasya glanim bhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham paritrānāya sadhūnām vināṣāya chatushkritam dharma samsthapanārthāya sambhavāmi yuge yuge. And it is Kshirodakshai Vishnu who thus incarnates in every millennium as different Yuga-avataras and as different Shakti-avisha-avataras. So, Kshirodakshai Vishnu has been given the charge of maintaining this material world through the usage of the mundane mode of goodness. Now, one can ask that Kshirodakshai Vishnu who maintains the material world and that Karanodakshai Vishnu who manifests desire of producing the aggregate material cosmos, Mahatattva and Pradhan. It is Kshirodakshai Vishnu who first of all expresses the desire for the material creation to become manifest. it is actually Karanadakshayi Mahavishnu who glances onto the material nature and thus makes the material nature impregnated, although not directly but through indirectly, through the proxy ad hoc agency of his divine transcendental consort, goddess of fortune Ramadevi. Niyati sa Ramadevi tatpriya tadvashantada tallingam bhagavan jambur jyoti rupa sanatana. या योनि ही सा पराशक्ति कामो बीजम महत्घड़े लिंग योन्यात्मिका जाता इमा माहेश्वर विडाहा ब्रह्म संहिता. Through the conjunction of the feminine reproductive organ represented by goddess Durga, and through the conjunction of that, the feminine reproductive organ with the masculine reproductive organ, ling and yoni of Shiva and Parvati, the whole material cosmos becomes manifest through the physical act of intercourse. But Lord Karanadakshayi Mahavishnu has no direct participation in this process. He rather glances on his divine consort, forming the eternal potency known as Rama Devi, Lakshmi Devi, goddess of fortune, and then goddess of fortune carries on the glance of Karanadakshayi Mahavishnu and again puts forth that glance of Karanadakshayi Vishnu onto goddess Durga, the predominating deity of material nature, the predominating deity of illusion, forming the external potency of the Lord. So, hereby it is concluded, by the deliberation on the various parts of the scriptures, it is concluded that Karanadakshayi Mahavishnu is the one for whom it is said in the Vedas, Ekoyam Bahusyamaha, that Karanadakshayi Mahavishnu, he once thought, let I become manifest into many different forms and entities. So that Karanadakshayi Mahavishnu, from whom many different entities and spirit souls became manifest at the time of creation. So Karanadakshayi Mahavishnu is the original cause for mundane creation. Kshirodakshayi Vishnu is the immediate active cause for the sustenance of the material world and for the various departments of this material world. The in charge is Kshirodakshayi Vishnu, and Garbhodakshayi Vishnu is in charge of the material world in the sense that Garbhodakshayi Vishnu has made manifest Lord Brahma, who performs the activity of secondary creation, Visarga. So the third, primary creation, initial, elementary or primary creation has been done, the task of Sarga has been done by Karanadakshayi Vishnu, and the task of subsequent secondary creation has been done by Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. And that the immediate supervision of the material world is done by Kshirodakshayi Vishnu. So all these three forms of Paramatma, although they are performing all these functions, still why the Paramatma is considered devoid of Leela and only considered only endowed with Nam and Rupa. Paramatma feature has been considered by Jiva Goswami to be endowed only with the names and form, not with activities, attributes, pastimes and the abodes. The reason the word pastime or Leela is defined as those activities of the personality of Godhead which are in relation with its pure devotees. The activities which are performed by Kshirodakshayi Vishnu, Garbhodakshayi Vishnu and Karanadakshayi Vishnu, all the three Purusha incarnations, the activities performed by them are only in relationship with the material world. The activities performed by them have nothing to do with the pure devotees. That is what makes the Paramatma feature different from Bhagavan. The activities of Bhagavan and different forms of Bhagavan feature are always in relationship with the pure devotees, whereas the activities of Paramatma feature are always in relationship with the conditioned entities and this material world. That is what makes Paramatma feature different from Bhagavan, and that's why Paramatma's function as maintainer and as being the original cause of this material creation and his manifold functions in regards to the material world, even though he performs different functions and different activities, those functions and activities cannot be termed as Leela or pastimes, because the literal definition of pastimes, the Shastric Paribhasha, the scripture definition of pastimes is those activities of the Lord which are only in regards, which are only in relationship with his pure devotees and not otherwise else. That's why Paramatma is considered devoid of Leela. He doesn't have to do anything with his devotees. The particular aspect, the peculiar aspect of absolute truth which has to do something with the devotees is known as Bhagavan feature and not Paramatma feature. That's why when Lord Ramachandra manifests, when Lord Krishna manifests, and when the different forms of Bhagavan feature like Varah, Matsya, Kurma, Narsimha, when they manifest, destroying the demons, those tasks of destroying the demons are not actually performed by those Bhagavan features, rather the indwelling Shirodakshai Vishnu who has become merged with the Bhagavan aspect of the Lord, with the Bhagavan feature of the Lord. That indwelling Shirodakshai Vishnu is the one who performs that task of destroying the demons and miscreants. That is not performed directly by any Bhagavan feature. What to speak of Krishna? Even Ramachandra is not directly involved in destroying the demons because he is part of Bhagavan aspect, not part of Paramatma aspect. So, therefore, Paramatma is considered only endowed with names and forms. And the names that the Paramatma possesses are only secondary names, Gaura-nam, and not Mukhya-nam or the principal names. Haridas Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they have given the definition of Gaura-nam and Mukhya-nam, secondary names and principal names. In a treatise known as Harinam Chintamani, and also by Raghunath Das Goswami, these definitions are given. Gaura-nam or secondary names of the Lord are characterized as those names which exhibit or which expose Lord's relationship with the material world. But Mukhya-nam or the principal names of the Lord are those names which exhibit Lord's relationship with His devotees and with other aspects of transcendental world. So, the names like Paramatma, Super Soul. There is no need of Super Soul in the spiritual world, only in the material world. Just in order to witness the virtuous and the vicious activities of the living entities, Shubha and Ashubha karmas, the Pap and Punyas, just in order to witness the simple deeds and the pious deeds of the conditioned living entities, the function and the role of Paramatma is required. Otherwise there is not. That's why Paramatma is not required in the spiritual world. So, it has been concluded that Paramatma's names, Paramatma feature possesses names, but the names that the Paramatma feature possesses, Radha Ranganeshwar Bhagavan Ki Jai. So the names that the Paramatma feature possesses are only secondary names, because those secondary names only exhibit Paramatma's relationship with the material world. Whereas Paramatma doesn't have any relationship with his devotees or any other transcendental aspect of the spiritual world. That's why he doesn't possess any principal name or Mukhya-nam. So Paramatma possesses only very limited category of names, not not all types of names, but only very limited category of names. And the form that Paramatma possesses is same as the form Lord Narayan of Mahavaikuntha possesses. Lord Narayan of Mahavaikuntha is full-fledged Bhagavan. He is coming in the category of Bhagavan and not Paramatma. But the Kshirodakshai, Karanadakshai, and Garbhodakshai, all the three, they possess the same forms as the Bhagavan Narayan of Mahavaikuntha possesses in the spiritual world. That means both the three types of Purusha incarnations and three types of Vishnus are four-handed and are possessing the four divine weapons: conch, mace, lotus, disc, lotus flower and disc, Shank Chakra and Gala Padma Dhari. They are Shank Chakra and Gala Padma Dhari forms. And as we have discussed, Paramatma feature only possesses partial category of names. Then the Paramatma feature has a four-handed form. Paramatma feature is devoid of Leela. Although it has functions in regards to the material world, it is devoid of Leela or pastimes. It is also devoid of Dham or the abode. Although Paramatma feature has a resting place, it is not to be technically considered Dham, as we have already described. And the Paramatma feature is devoid of associates, Parshadas or Parikaras, Parshadas, associates. And the Paramatma feature is also devoid of attributes, qualities. One can say that the quality of maintaining this material world is present within the personality of Paramatma, but those qualities are not to be considered transcendental qualities. That's why the definition of Paramatma that Jiva Goswami has given in Paramatma Sandarbha is Mahit Achit Vritti Mishrit Bhagavad Rupa Paramatma. Paramatma is that feature of the absolute truth which is integrated with the illusory potency of the Lord. And therefore the qualities of maintaining the material world are actually not the qualities found within the spiritual world, That's why although those qualities are present within Paramatma, those qualities are not technically known as the Chinmaya Gun or the transcendental qualities that the Bhagavan feature possesses. So anyhow, the Paramatma feature only consists mainly of names and forms and is devoid of qualities, pastimes, abode, paraphernalia and associates. And the Bhagavan aspect of the Lord, the Bhagavan feature of the Lord possesses names, forms, pastimes, qualities, entourage, paraphernalia and the transcendental abode, everything in full-fledged amount. That's why all the different forms of Bhagavan feature like Lord Narayan, Lord Nrsimhadev, Varahadev, Matsyadev, Kurmadev, Ramachandra, Dwarkadhish, Vasudev, Mathuradish, Keshavdev, they are all different aspects of the Bhagavan feature, full with the six opulences, Aishwaryasya, Samagrasya, Viryasya, Yashatah, Shriyah, Jnana, Vairagyayo, Shaiva, Sharnam, Bhagat, Dindana. But whereas the Swayam Bhagavan or the original primeval personality of Godhood, from whom all the other forms of Bhagavan, Paramatma and Brahma have become manifest, that is known as Swayam Bhagavan or the primeval original personality of Godhead, Shri Govinda of Shri Dham Vrindavan, who is the fountain source of all the other Vishnu Tattva expansions and incarnations as substantiated in many different places of the Shastras. So when Shri Jiva Goswami says that Jasya Brahmeti Sanjam Vachidati Nigame Yati Chinmatra Satta Pyamsho Yasyam Shakailhari Svaili Vivavati Vachayaneva Mayam Pumansha, that Lord Shri Krishna, whose spiritual cognitive existence is sometimes referred to in the Vedas as the impersonal Brahman aspect, and whose localized portion of Paramatma feature is sometimes referred to as the Vishnu Rupa, Karana Dakshai, Shiva Dakshai, etc., all the three types of Vishnus, and whose Bhagavan feature is referred to as the Narayan of Mahavaikuntha. Swari Vibhavati Vashayaneva Mayam Pumanscha Ekam Yasyaiva Rupam Virasati Paramam Yomni Narayanakam, and whose Bhagavan feature, whose Vilasa Rupa means the Bhagavan feature, whose Bhagavan aspect is always performing sportive pastimes in the region, in the continental region of Mahavaikuntha. Ekam Yasyaiva Rupam Virasati Paramam Yomni Narayanakam, Sa Shri Krishna Vidattam, that Shri Krishna, who is the original source of all the three categories, Brahma, Paramatma and Bhagavan, that Swayam Bhagavan Shri Krishna, Sa Shri Krishna Vidattam Swayam Iha Bhagavan Prem Tatpadhanam, that Shri Krishna of Shri Dham Vrindavan may grant, may give the boon and benediction of Prema Bhakti, of transcendental, unalloyed and unmotivated, uninterrupted love for the lotus feet of his transcendental self and to his devotees who are none other than the honeybees trying to suck the nectarian honey from the lotus-like feet of Lord Shri Krishna through the process of service. Sa Shri Krishna Vidattam Swayamiha Bhagavan Prematapadhanam. So the word Vidattam, which has been used here, is the same as Vidadhati. Because Shri Krishna grants, and what is that transcendental auspiciousness that Shri Krishna grants unto his devotees? That transcendental auspiciousness is known as the fifth and the ultimate goal of human life, Pancham Purushartha. Before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his transcendental associates made their divine advent on this mortal platform, the concept of Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha, the fourfold concept was prevalent. But after that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers made their advent, only after their advent, the concept of fifth goal, Pancham Purushartha, became popular. And the fifth goal is rather known as Prema Bhakti, or the transcendental unalloyed love for the lotus feet of the Lord, which is derived by the practice of sadhana bhakti. That's why it has been said in the Brihad Naradi Puran, Devarshe Vihita Prokta Hari Murtishya Yapriya Sarva Bhakti Viti Prokta Taya Bhakti Parabhave. O Narad, Narayan tells to Narada, Lord Narayan tells Narada, O Narad, those activities which are aimed at satisfying me, that means those activities which are solely targeted to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, those activities are known as sadhana bhakti, and through the practice of that sadhana bhakti, the para bhakti, the perfect form of devotional service, the para bhakti, the most exalted stage of devotional service, that is prema bhakti, is obtained. The stage of prema bhakti is obtained through the stage of sadhana bhakti. That's why Srimad Bhagavatam also, the same Siddhanta has been substantiated. Bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya, devotional service in turn begets devotional service. The devotional service which begets, which is the progenitor, is known as sadhana bhakti, and the devotional service which is begotten or progenited is known as prema bhakti. So prema bhakti, which is the last and the final ultimate goal of all the living entities, in front of which the other four goals of dharma, artha, kama and moksha appear as insignificant as a blade or straw of grass. That prema bhakti, for which it has been declared by Lord Narada in Srimad Bhagavatam 5th canto and to Maharaj Yudhishthir, that Attveva Manga Bhagavan Bhajatam Mukundo Muktim Dadati Kahichit Smara Bhakti Yogam Rajan Patir Gururadam Bhavatam Yadunam Kvacha Kinkaro Vaha Kulapati Kvacha Kinkaro Vaha Attveva Manga Bhagavan Bhajatam Mukundo Muktim Dadati Kahichit Smara Bhakti Yogam. Yudhishthira is being told by Narad Muni at the time of a Rajasya sacrifice that, oh King Yudhishthira, oh Emperor Yudhishthira, you are surely fortunate, you are certainly extremely fortunate. You and all of your four Pandava brothers are extremely fortunate, and the rare fortune that you are endowed with is certainly the glories of that rare fortune are not describable by the mundane mind and by the mundane tongue. The rare fortune that you have acquired is that you have acquired the prema bhakti of the Lord, through which the Lord has become now subservient and subordinate to you, the five Pandava brothers. And this prema bhakti, the Lord doesn't want to bestow. This prema bhakti, the Lord doesn't want to bestow to all of his worshippers. The Lord tries to get away from the clutches of his worshippers by trying to delude his worshippers by giving them either bhukti, material sense enjoyment of various types, and mukti, or liberations or emancipations of various types. There are 5 types of mukti, 5 types of liberations, like Salukya mukti, Sarshti mukti, Sarupya mukti, Sayujya mukti, and Samitya mukti. But these 5 types of liberations are rather rejected by the pure devotees of the Lord. That's why in Srimad Bhagavatam, while defining the pure devotional service, it has been declared by Kapil Dev and to his mother Devahuti that Sarupya Sarshti Samitya Sarupya Ikatvamakyuta Diyamanam Nakrihanandi Vinamakteva Janaha, that my pure devotees do not aspire after all these 5 types of liberations or different forms of emancipations from this material world. Neither do they aspire after all sorts of material sense enjoyment found either on the earth planet or in the heavenly celestial paradise of Indra and the other demigods. All the different forms of sense enjoyment found within the material world are not aspired after by my pure devotees, nor are the 5 types of liberations aspired after by my pure devotees. So, it has become very clear that the 5th Purushartha, the ultimate goal of human life, is Bhagavad Prem, is Krishna Prem. It is Prema Bhakti. It is neither so-called ritualistic activities or the prescribed duties of Varnashrama Dharma. It is not also the so-called economic development or financial prosperity artha. It is not the sensual gratification calm, nor it is the 5 types of liberations, moksha. It is actually Prema Bhakti, which is the 5th goal of human life, which is actually the ultimate and the real goal of human life. The other goals are being considered to be cheating forms and cheating propensities of fake religion. That is why in Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 1st chapter, very 2nd verse, Shri Vyasadeva makes a promise in front of his readers, Pratigya Vakya, promise statement he makes in front of his readers, that I will not redo the same mistake that I have done in all the other scriptures compiled by my hands, through my hands, by myself. I will not redo the same mistake. I will not make the same flaws, mistakes, and flaws and faults reoccur within this composition known as Srimad Bhagavatam. Dharma projita kaitavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam. Vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivananda patrayod moolanam. Srimad Bhagavatam mahamuni kritainva paraishvara Satyo Vidhi Avarudhyati Aprakriti Shushuju Vitakshana. That is approach. All the cheating forms, Kaitava means cheating, artificial, fake. All the other duplicitous and cheating forms of religion are rejected, are relinquished, are completely abandoned and forsaken by this treatise, Srimad Bhagavatam. This treatise, Srimad Bhagavatam, doesn't include even in slightest, minimal, minute degree any tinge of cheating religions, any slightest reflection or even semblance or shadow of cheating propensities of religion is completely devoid of that. Projita. Ujjita means that Ujjita means Bhagavatam is rejecting. So Ujjita means that Bhagavatam has rejected dharma, artha and kam. But when the prefix pra is annexed with the word Ujjita and when it turns into projita, then by the annexation of prefix prapatyay, the meaning comes out to be complete rejection. Ujjita would mean only rejection of a normal type. Projita means complete rejection. And Sridhar Swami defines complete rejection as meaning even rejection of moksha or mukti. Mokshadi sandhirati nirastah prashabdena tu mokshadi sandhirati nirastah. By the annexation of the pra prefix, it means that Lord Vyasdeva is trying to say that Srimad Bhagavatam excludes even the idea of so-called 5 types of liberations. Muktis. So, this Pancham Purusharth, this fifth goal of human life, not only of human life but of all sorts of lives, the ultimate goal is Prema Bhakti, and such Shri Krishna Vidattam Svayamiha Bhagavan Prema Tatpadamajam, as Jiva Goswami puts it in Tattva Sandarbha's invocatory words, that Shri Krishna grants that rare boon of Prema Bhakti. So, as Narada was telling Yudhishthir, that Astuvema Bhanga Bhagavan Bhajatam Mukundo Muktim Dadati Karhitit Smana Bhakti Yogam. That Lord very easily gives and tries to delude and tries to get rid of the shackles and bondage of his worshippers by giving them the flickering enjoyment of mundane type. But if his worshippers, if some of his worshippers are not moved by those deluding items, like the flickering enjoyments of the material world, the temporal sense gratification of multifarious sorts, then the Lord again tries to delude his worshippers and he tries to examine and test the sincerity of his worshippers by granting them or by giving them 5 types of liberations. And liberations also Lord gives very easily. Muktim dadati. Lord gives very easily the 5 types of liberations. But Muktim dadati karhichit sma na bhakti yogam. The prema bhakti, the Lord only gives in very few rare cases, only when he is compelled or forced to do so, only when no other choice, no other option is left for the Lord to satisfy his worshipper, only then the Lord gives the last benediction of Prema Bhakti. That's why in Padma Purana, Patal Khand, when Narada meets Bhakti Maharani, along with the 2 sons of Bhakti Maharani, the personified Jnana and personified Vairagya, who were found unconscious in the state of coma. At that time, Narada tries to pacify and console the personified goddess of devotion, Bhakti Maharani, by saying, "Oh Bhakti Maharani, do not lament, do not become remorseful, do not become reinstated in the condition, in the regretful condition of melancholy. No. Why? Because you do not have to express any sort of lamentation, any degree of lamentation, rather you should become rejoiced. Why you should become rejoiceful? Because Lord Narayana or Lord Krishna, he has granted Muktim Dasim Dadam Tubhyam Jnana Vairagya Kavimo. Lord Krishna has granted to you such a far excellent position that not only the personified goddesses of all the holy sacred rivers of this universe like Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, Narmada, Sindhu, Kaveri, etc., and not only all the other goddesses of heavenly planets like the wife of Indra, wife of Lord Shiva, wife of Ganesha and wife of other demigods are your maid servants, but even the personified goddess of liberation, Mukti Devi, has been granted by Lord Shri Krishna as your maid servant. And I can personally see that just 2 feet away from your transcendental personality, the personified goddess of Mukti or liberation, she is standing you from side. And she is serving you, and you are the only mistress or queen here existing in Vrindavan Dham. being served by all these transcendental goddesses. The goddesses, the personified goddesses of 8 types of yogic siddhis or mystic perfections that a yogi achieves as a result of his Ashtanga Yoga austerity. The Anima, Laghima, Mahima, all these 8-fold yogic perfections or yogic siddhis. The personified goddesses of the 8 yogic siddhis. The personified goddess of bhakti, material sense gratification. The personified goddess of the 5 types of liberations. Salokya, Sashti, Mukti, etc. They are all serving your lotus feet. One need to worry. So, Prema Bhakti is the final ultimate goal. And that's why even Adi Shankaracharya, the preceptor of the path of monastic knowledge leading to the impersonal liberation, Acharya, preceptor of even that path, Jnana Marg, that Shankaracharya had to accept at one point while writing his commentary to Brahma Sutra known as Sharilak Mimamsa Bhashya. While writing that commentary on Shankaracharya has to forcefully accept, even though he might not want to accept, he is forced to accept that Mukta api lilaya vigraham kritva bhagavantam bhajante. Even the liberated souls who are merged in the impersonal effulgence of Brahman by rare fortune, they again come down into this material world and they again get a chance to perform sadhana bhakti, and as a result of sadhana bhakti, after getting Prema Bhakti, the 5th goal, Pancham Purushar, they again re-enter into the transcendental spiritual planets of Golok, Vrindavan or Vaikuntha and become reinstated as the associates of Lord Krishna or one of his Vishnu Tattva expansions. Mukta api lilaya vigraham kritva bhagavantam bhajante. They take on a personal body made up of transcendental nature to serve the Lord, even the impersonally liberated living entities. So, the mukti has been considered inferior. The concept of liberation has been considered inferior. Actually, the concept of liberation was glorified not only by Shankaracharya but by all the other acharyas coming before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who has revealed and who has established Prema Bhakti to be the ultimate and last goal of existence. And that is why even Ramanujacharya, even Madhvacharya, even Vishnu Swami and Nimbar, they have also accepted the concept of liberation. Although their concept of liberation is not the same as the concept of Shankaracharya, but still the other 4 Vaishnava acharyas, they are mixing the concept of Prema Bhakti with the concept of liberation. And that is why their viewpoints are not as transparently crystal clear as the view of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, that Sri Krishna, because he grants Saha Shri Krishna Sarvani Shubhani Tasya Bhaktanam Upari Vidadhati Tasmat Saha Shri Krishna Viduhu Uchyate. Because that Shri Krishna grants the transcendental benediction of Prema Bhakti, which is the highest form of auspiciousness. Now that has been established. Therefore, that Shri Krishna is known as Vidhu. Now, the 3-fold meaning of the word Vidhu have become completed. So we have only completed explanation on the first part, or actually we have only completed explanation of the first word of the invocatory words of Nectar of Devotion. Akila Rasamrita Murtihi, Praktiri Mana Ruchiruddha Tarakapalihi, Karika Shyama Lalito Radha Priyan Vilojayati. That Shri Krishna may his supramundane transcendental glories be extolled to the utmost limit, and may that Shri Krishna be all victorious and all glorious, who is Vidhu, who is the transcendental mood, or who grants the transcendental auspicious benediction of Prema Bhakti on his sincere devotees, or who eradicates all types of anarthas from the heart of his devotees. That Vidhu, that Shri Krishna, the all glorious. Now tomorrow we will endeavor to explain, following the footsteps of our predecessor acharyas, coming in the lineage, preceptorial lineage of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we will endeavor to explain the first phrase of the invocatory verse, Akhila Rasamrita Murti. What does Akhila Rasamrita Murti actually mean? Akhila Rasamrita Murti simply, generally is defined as that Shri Krishna who is endowed with all excellence and who is the very personification of transcendental paramount bliss or felicity characterized by the 12 forms of rasa. But that is a very simple definition. An in-depth, profound explanation is needed to understand the subtle intricacy of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Since we have 5 or 7 minutes left, we can have some questions or inquiries taken. So, yes. Very nice question. Actually, Prema Bhakti is not progenited from Sadhana Bhakti. But still sometimes the word progenited is used. Why? Because Srimad Bhagavatam puts it in such a way. Bhaktya Sanjataya Bhaktya. Sanjataya. The word Sanjataya means to progenite, to produce or to give birth to or to progenite. So that is the meaning of the word Sanjataya. To give birth to the Prema Bhakti, that is what the Sadhana Bhakti does. But even though the word Sanjataya, which means to progenerate, has been used, still that should not be taken literally. That is only indicating that Prema Bhakti is becoming manifest as a consequence of the performance of Sadhana Bhakti. But actually, Prema Bhakti doesn't become progenerated. The literal meaning of the word Sanjataya is to progenerate, but that word Sanjataya has been used by Lord Vyasadeva just to indicate that Prema Bhakti is the fruit of Sadhana Bhakti. But even though Prema Bhakti is the fruit of Sadhana Bhakti, Prema Bhakti is not like a child or a issue or like a progeny who literally takes birth from womb of a mother or from the performance of Sadhana Bhakti. Because the Prema Bhakti has been considered to be in the Shastras as Nitya Siddha. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabodai. And also by Rupa Goswami Bhakti Rasamrita, that was Chaitanya Charitamrita. And also by Rupa Goswami Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Nitya Siddhasya Bhavasya Prakritya Vriti Sadhyata. That Prema Bhakti is Nitya Siddha, is eternally existing. How can that eternally existing item be manufactured or can take birth through the agency of Sadhana Bhakti? That is not possible. Even Prema Bhakti is as eternal as Shri Krishna. It is an eternally existing item. It is only made manifest, it is only awakened through the performance of Sadhana Bhakti. It is pre-existing, it is eternally existing. So yes, when we use the words pro-generation and all that in terms of Prema Bhakti, they are only used in a very relative sense, not in an ultimate sense. The meaning should not be taken in a literal, definite way. I think the concept has become quite clear. And we are requesting the respected personages forming our audience that we are broadcasting our lectures live on the internet, this seminar live on the internet. And it has been our traditional custom to broadcast our lectures from the different parts of the world, wherever, in whichever temple the seminar is going on. And these seminars can also be watched as pre-recorded videos. If somebody is not able to watch live on the internet, they can also watch pre-recorded videos later on at their own leisure. So we are requesting to the audience if they would like to give us their email addresses so that we can put you in our contact mailing list, and then we will be able to provide you with the proper website URL and the address so that you can log on and view these seminars. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hello, Shri Shri Radharandeshwar Bhagavan ki, Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Jagat Guru Shri Prabhupada ki, Tathai Gaur Premanande. Hare